What is good with you all? What's good? So, we are here today again to talk about higher education. So, let's do our disclaimer. I hope y'all day was well. I hope your morning was well, your afternoon. I hope work went well. I hope everything is going well in these times. Yeah. So, we got some things to talk about. Hopefully, you can hear me, guys. My alarm went off the stretch. I'm supposed to be stretching at this time. You know, stretching is good. And so, we're going to do our disclaimer so you can go about your business. If you want to pop in, then pop out and get this higher education news. Like, oh, where's the video? Tools for video. Nobody in here yet, which is good. Once again, if you hear any noise over there, I cannot control that, but you shouldn't hear anything, hopefully. We're waiting on disclaimer to come up. I don't know why I take disclaimer so long to populate. I know one thing I enjoy about talking to you all. We talking about the future. And by the time it hits everybody, it's gonna be like, oh. Disclaimer. The video The videos presented here are for informational purposes only, and therefore, if you are to choose to attend an institution, please do your own research and consult with a specialist at your institution that you are interested in. I am not a financial aid specialist, academic advisor, or representing any institution. Speaking on behalf of Creator, Henry is only speaking from his experience. Speaking from experience. Let's go. So, I was looking into some things, of course. One of them that caught my attention, one thing that caught my attention was that small colleges hope to be spared from endowment tax hike. Um, and I'm gonna read a little bit about it. So it says 24 liberal arts colleges are lobbying to pay lower rates than large research universities if Congress forges ahead with plans to raise the exercise tax on investment income. So if you don't know anything about lobbying, I learned about lobbying in undergraduate at my university school. Shout out to them. I had to refresh on it because lobbying to me is like a form of negotiating. That's how I look at it a lot of times, but I'm gonna look it up for us, write that down for us, because lobbying is very good. That's a career field for anybody who wants to do it. I don't think there's certifications to it. It's just lobbying. So So their ideas include adopting a different tax rate for institutions with fewer than 5,000 students. So if you go to an institution, it's less than 5,000 of you all. You probably don't realize that, but some of you all probably go to schools in small areas where it is less than 5,000 of you all. Your school is trying to get your school is trying to avoid a tax hike. They're trying to avoid being taxed pretty bad. So they want to, let's keep going. College tax break, boom, boom. And then they said the lobbying comes as wealthy institutions have sought to stave, literally STAVE. I'll put that in the chat. So if anybody see that, let you all see that. Stave. I never heard of stave. 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 Sound like it would be stove if it was an O, but it's A. So stave. So put that in there. Stave. Don't know what stave is. And so stave off a higher tax by suggesting they'll agree to 5% annual endowment spending rates. So I'm on a outlet, I believe it's independent. It's called Politico. I said that right. And it's about small colleges pursue endowment tax carve outs. Why they use that fancy word, I don't know. And so it starts off by saying some things I saw in here I liked. It was like, of course, you always got to start with the intro, right? Before you get into the meat and potatoes. It says the country's small private, the country's small private liberal arts colleges are speaking out about what they want from the Senate's anticipated take on a revised college endowment tax. So we've been hearing a lot about endowment taxes lately. And endowments, your college, pretty much every college, at least I know of that I've been to and attended, have an endowment fund. They get this endowment fund. That one. Give me a few seconds, guys. Not that one. I'll probably hear that too, huh? So, what's an endowment? An endowment is a pool of money, often donated, often donated, that a college or university invests. Only a portion of the earnings is used. Only a portion of the earnings is used each year to fund scholarships, faculty salaries, research, campus operations. So right there, before we keep going, scholarships. So if you relied on scholarships from your school, there's a strong possibility that your school is going to have less scholarships if they get hit with this tax hike, which is in the Big Beautiful Bill Act. And so faculty salaries, which means that your instructors, favorite instructors, they can lose their jobs if they get hit with this tax hike because schools will have to, as we say, tighten their budget and then have to cut the screens on some instructors, which means that you possibly can have, how does this relate to you? If you lose more instructors due to budget concerns or whatever the reason is, right? Um, that decreases your chances as a student, just off of general knowledge. That would decrease your chances as a student to be enrolled in classes. So, a prime example, you might have just macroeconomics 101, right? But usually you have three instructors teaching it, right? But instead, because of this upcoming change with the endowment, you're only going to have one instructor teaching it. And if that one instructor is teaching it, guess what? If the class is filled up, then you can't get into that class. So that hurts you really, really bad. And so going back to what we talked about, It says that college presidents, particularly those in states who lawmakers work on the Senate's Finance Committee, of course, would rather have Congress make no changes to the existing 1.4% tax on, once again, rather have Congress make no changes to the existing 1.4% tax on university investment income, first adopted to finance President Donald Trump 2017 tax cuts. That was a lot, right? So they said another idea that was floated was that of the 24 small colleges in 17 states, spare schools that enroll fewer students. Colleges are really begging, y'all. Colleges, universities are really scared. They're really begging to not have to pay more money and dish more money out. Why? You know my reason. My reason is that because they pay a significant amount of money for these campus amenities. They paid a lot of money for these dorms. They paid a lot of money for these room and board, these meal plans, these student activities. Okay, it's for the students, right? But the stadiums, the gyms like we talk about, the nice track, tennis court, and everything else you can think of on that campus. That stuff has to be paid for. That costs lights, that costs maintenance, that costs, you need staff workers for that. And so will we see schools close? We talked about it a little bit. Will we start seeing schools close? Probably not, but I think we'll see a lot of schools not getting students because they can't afford to have the staff to get students. So, and then they said, I didn't really care too much about that one. They mentioned more complex proposals will be based on the percentage of annual school endowment distributions. Endowment, of course, that's like a different variety of schools, but we like to relate this back to you as a student and what you should expect, right? And so, fundamental. So, one of them right here is that we're going to talk about this next, Davidson College. Some of you all know this school as the school Stephen Curry went to. So, but the main thing we want to talk about is that the president, Douglas Hicks, said that schools that are meeting those goals of affordability, low indebtedness, high achievement, and high graduation rates should receive breaks from this tax. Um, I was trying to figure out what is considered a small school first and foremost. What is considered a small school? And they said early on less than 5,000 students, allegedly. And affordability. Schools that are meeting the goals of affordability. Some schools are affordable. Don't get me wrong. Some schools are extremely affordable. But low indebtedness is rare that I'll talk to somebody who says they haven't went into student loan debt. And the only time a student has said they have not went into student loan debt is when they had a full ride scholarship. They had a full ride scholarship. They applied, of course, got a full ride scholarship, or their parents took care of it. It's rare that I see students say, "Oh, I don't have student loans from going to college," and so it's really just get all schools because all schools have been just doing whatever they want, doing whatever they want. There has never really been any real strong government structure. Other words, strong policy, a strong enforcement policy on higher education schools. Um, One thing that they do like to do, they do like to work higher education employees very hard with, I like to say, limited resources most of the time. Once again, higher education is one of them fields they're a little behind. They're not really using tech savviness. They're just like like I said, they still have some schools still. It's good to have filing cabinet systems. Some schools still use filing cabinet systems like real hard paper. Very like government because government still does that a lot. They trust hard paper over being solely reliant on technology, which I get. Which I get. I get it. I get it both ways. When will we make that leap to be like we're good on this? I don't think we'll see that pretty soon. But me personally. Um, and then let's jump into. That's anything else on here before I jump to the next one about the Davidson College. Um, this is interesting. They said schools never imagined facing an administration so willing to exercise government power so quickly, targeting the research funding, tax exempt status, foreign student enrollment, and financial aid eligibility schools. And financial aid eligibility schools need to function. Right here, when they said they never imagined, like schools never imagined, colleges never imagined to face an administration so willing to exercise government power, it was coming eventually. Like you wasn't finna keep putting these kids in student loan debt or not showing them a route. Now schools, I just saw a post by Inside Higher Ed. I didn't read it, but I saw a post on LinkedIn. They were saying that they were saying that schools are starting to be more, I will read it exactly, but they were saying schools or colleges, universities are being more open to like teaching the kids financial literacy because it can help with enrollment numbers. They saying it can help you as a student bringing in financial experts. Now think about colleges seeing all these people on YouTube, right? That demonstrate very good financial excellence. Like I learned my financial literacy first through YouTube. Everything through YouTube, applying it, boom, 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 asking my peers who knew more about it than me, then taking that next step to get a financial advisor right, and then keep going and asking them questions, right? And so it's interesting that they're always behind the curve. And then honestly, it's like somebody like me who would bring those ideas, but you wouldn't really see a person like me getting hired who has those flexible ideas. Like I was the same age as my peers going through college, working with staff members. And they never tried to like ask me like, what you think about the students, Henry and da da da, and what this can work on enrollment, retention, right? And so it's funny, you got somebody who's literally a college student and like, what's the problem with students? What do students want nowadays? Students want fairness. Like, I think I speak for all of us. I'm 26 years old. Um, Graduated high school in 2017, right? So that gives you an idea of my age range. Gen Zer, right? So-called Gen Zer. Um, we see a lot of our peers not being able to even like when you first graduate college, not being able to go get a house. Like I talked to my old supervisor about it. It was like back in his day, you can get a job, probably like 10. I probably say he got like a decade on me, for sure a decade on me. We just go with that decade on me in age. And he was telling me, like, when he was coming out of college, he was like, it was such a sure thing that you was gonna get a job that like it was such a for sure thing you was gonna get a job when you graduated college that they would move to the city. They would move to the city without the job yet, go through their interviews and take the job because they knew they was gonna get a job. That's how fast it was back then. Now it's like in my career field, for example, I have to do like a minimum like 3 interviews, just the a minimum 3 interviews to get a job. That's so long. Jobs are trying to get to know you, and they're like, okay, first interview go well. Then you find some reason not to get me in the second interview because I probably didn't say one thing you didn't like. One thing. Nobody is perfect. They say, oh, nobody's perfect. Like we're supposed to be in that so-called era. Nobody's perfect and, all it is. But you're looking for like a perfection of what applicants. And so it's just very difficult for our generation. It is, unless you're going to start at a 2 year and bridge to a 4 year, which gives you a great return on investment if you stay at a school like I said, my 2 year was $100 per credit hour. So find you another college that's probably like 115 per credit hour, 120. Have a cap on like what you can afford based on the job you have already, so you don't have to change jobs because that can be stressful. From my experience, because I didn't have this all. Dang, low computer. I didn't have this all figured out. Like as I say now, if I could have did this, if I could do something over, right? I think we had one do over, right? To change a few things, how we did things. I would have stayed at home. I'm 26. I would have stayed because I see people who are about my age. They, went to college, whatever. Then they went back home, so they can stack their money. Watching people on YouTube start their YouTubing, set up, because then they don't have to worry about renting much. They don't have to worry about much rent. Probably have to worry about cheap rent. They know their parents or their mom gonna take care of the groceries. And so I wish I would have, if I could do that again, I wish I had the mindset to be like, all right, after I get done here, because I stayed home at my 2 year. Then when I went to my 4 year, I moved away, which was good for me. I needed that. But when I came back to my mom's place for a little bit, it was like a brief stint. I should have stayed longer. I should have did my whole graduate school there, and then set up my YouTube like I'm doing now there, and then just kept going, and then saving and stacking because that blueprint of, let me see, I can find that post for you all real quick. That blueprint of here it go right here. So that blueprint of, graduate college, go move out, get a job, move out. That's flawed. I would say like at the point we're at, with the potential economic factors surrounding based off of CNBC News, Yahoo Finance, and all that, Investopedia, based on the tariffs saying like we could be in a recession soon. It's in your best interest when you freshly graduate college to go back home if you're not already home. Go home or stay home and wait for some clarity. You have to watch the economic markets because I feel like it's critical in this. That's basic macroeconomics, what we learned in college, right? It's critical because if you try to go leave and you're not paying attention and you're like, man, I can't get a job. Like, that's what the guy Jerome Powell, if you don't know Jerome Powell, he's like the Fed, he's the head Fed. We all have a Federal Reserve, I believe it's called Federal Reserve. I'm always humble on here because I don't want to be just talking, but the Federal Reserve, let me type in his name. Okay, it is Federal Reserve. I believe it is. Yeah, Federal Reserve. He's the chair of the Federal Reserve, and you have a Federal Reserve in every state. It's like a Federal Reserve in every state, and they collect data in each state to bring to the headquarters, right? And you have to know that because they tell you when jobs are being lost. And so like how the job market is looking, how the CPI, consumer price index, which factors into your groceries. And so they tell you all of those things, guys, and it's important because it helped me just knowing a little bit, it helped me navigate like how I should go about things. I don't go off I can't like I was off social media for like 5 or 6 years. I can't make decisions based off of social media, guys. I just wasn't brought up in that time. I'm like the last. I feel like I'm like part of that generation where we barely made it through. Like when I was in high school, giving you just giving my experience. I was writing on paper in high school. The only people who got laptops when I was in high school were magnet. We called it magnet students, AP students. Y'all probably know about that. And so that's like I social media wasn't really how it was. I'm not gonna say it wasn't. It was getting there, but it wasn't like how it is now. So I always have to mention that, like, stay home, stack it up, run it up, get the money, stack your money, because a part-time job can get you very far just staying at home, and if that's not enough, get you a full-time job. Then that lets you get some cushion, and then when you get some cushion working a full-time job, then you can leave full-time and go back to part-time, and then it lets you, like, you keep a little, you trying, you ain't never gonna be balanced, but you can get some, what's that word? Some momentum going. And so, and then schools showing, like, they say students often, this is by Inside Higher Ed. I believe they use credible sources. It says student success, health and wellness. That was a lot of my research, actually, guys. Health, health and wellness. That was part of my research too. I felt that if students didn't have their financial situations in check when they are going to college, they were going to have a hard time with their mental health. And then I always say social media doesn't make it no better because she said God, you make sure we good. I always say social media doesn't make it any better because social media, it lets you. I wrote an op-ed on it, opinion op-ed on it. Social media lets you see people in different spaces, right? Like somebody can be, and like I said, I'm giving you something from my experience. I'm looking at somebody from, because I had it in high school a little bit. It was for sports, trying to get myself seen in sports. I was gonna go somewhere, right? I was a baseball player first, but you thought you was going to, like, not, I thought I was about to tell you another story, but the social media makes you see someone and you see them in another country and they seem like they're having fun. I know you hear it and see it, but hopefully you can feel the organic from me in it. And what it does, it makes you feel like it's gonna make you feel like, so I work out, it's gonna make you feel like you're not running fast enough on the treadmill. Even though I like running outside more, it's gonna make you feel like you're not running fast on the treadmill. And it's gonna make you super unbalanced. Like, people, I feel like I hear, like, it's good to be unbalanced. You're never gonna be balanced. That's what I hear sometimes. But based off my perspective, I feel like it's gonna make you super unbalanced. It's gonna make you feel like, oh, I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. Da da da. I can't do nothing. I met people who are pretty wealthy guys, or wealthy, doing very well, whichever term you want to use. And honestly, when they're not, some of them are not even heavily on time constraints. They're like, they choose how they want to do their time. And so, and they choose who they want to talk to. I noticed that. They don't want to talk to people who they know are not going to do something. They want to talk to people who are going to do something, who they know are going to do something, who's working on getting to that point. And so they got 6 models of financial literacy programs from inside from inside higher ed. It's written by Ashley Moretter, like, kind of like Moretter. Colleges are learning that financial wellness can impact student retention, and educating students on money management and loan repayment can enhance their success. So financial literacy education can help students stay in college and set them up for success after graduation. That is true. And then remember, we just said students often consider return on investment of their degree when deciding on whether and where to enroll in college. My screen went. Should make sure my screen good. And they said every student does not learn financial education from their institution on how to turn their education into a life-sustaining career. They got a 2022 survey in here. Let's see where that survey comes from, because it could be credible. Let's see. They took some from 2022, and so let's see. Okay, this is our area. They said, what is the need? They said student debt has skyrocketed over the past 20 years, with 42.7 million student borrowers holding nearly 1.7 trillion in federal loans. Federal loans. The average student who takes out loans to attend a public university borrows 31,000, pretty much 32,000 to attain a bachelor's degree. Now, guys, 32. I'm pretty sure that they went off of a I'm pretty sure that they went off of a help me out guys. They went off of state colleges. They didn't go off of private or anything. They said students borrow about 32,000. So 32,000, we get our calculator because it's yearly. That's every year. We're gonna just imagine if it's every year. Then we can break it down by two. We're gonna say 32 divided by 4. Imagine if they graduate in 4 years. That's 8,000. So they're saying that a student pays, if you take that 8,000 and divide it by two, because each semester, they're saying that a student pays 4,000 per semester, which is a lot of money, right? And that's what I always had a problem about when students went to college. I was like, why are students going to these expensive colleges? And it's lack of information, lack of resources, right? Like they said, students try to look at like students go to bigger schools because they think it's going to help them get a good job or a great job. And I talked to very prestige people, and they do care about like where you go to school because certain schools offer certain programs. Let's be clear on that. But if you don't have a work ethic, they will treat you as if you went to, I don't know, no school, because you have to have a work ethic, guys, in order to like have a sustained and growing career. Like it's just like if you was the best player in college, right? But if you can't translate your game once you get this really good job, they're not going to advance you. You will stay at the entry level of what you make because you're not growing. That's just how it goes. And so, yeah, really simple, right? And that's why I say you guys usually start at a 2 year and then bridge to a 4 year because that 2 year can also give you early experience on if you're going to like that major before you even get too deep into it. Let you get sometimes they let you get hands-on experiences depending on which 2 year you go to and depending on what program it is. And it says loan debt can limit students' earnings. So we talked about that. Loan debt can limit students' earnings after college and hinder their social economic advancement. Very true, because normally students, if they took out too much money, they realize if they realize they took out too much money in college, then they have to take a job they don't want to do, which could be leading to what? Depression, anxiety, or I don't like my job, but I have to stay here because it pays what? My loans, my bills. And then it's not like your job is going to make it easier. I think we all been there. It's not like your job is going to make it easier and actually sympathize with you. Like, I get what you're trying to do. I understand you're not going to be here long. And that's actually, I learned that in graduate school. That's actually called, oh, I'm glad my professor's not here. But it's like along the lines of, I forgot the name of it. I forgot the name of it. It's in my schoolwork folder. But pretty much jobs can mislead you when you're interviewing. I learned that in graduate school, like they talk about they have the job duties, they talk about it with you. These are what you're supposed to be doing, and some of you all probably know about this. I'm not no expert solely, but I could give, like I said, it's experience. They said I was supposed to come and do this and do that, but I'm over here doing. I was supposed to come and only order things, for example, but I'm hiring people. It's like what? I didn't. I could have took another job to do that, right? And for example, and so that's a big thing that jobs can mislead you. In other words, my mom don't like when I say lie. She think that's a terrible word, lie. But they can mislead you, and so They said even while students are in college, financial challenges can impact their persistence and outcomes. Right. They got some surveys. Right. Boom, boom, boom. What's something that we all know? Something that we all know. So they got in here. They talking about different schools, um, different institutions, different colleges, like having money management programs, financial programs. And so we don't want to go through each school on here, right? And so that was a little bit on the side note of that. And then as we go back to small colleges trying to avoid endowment tax hike, um, they said, leading to this, they said perhaps it's a failure of imagination on the part of universities. Lee Boilinger, if I pronounced that right, the former president of Columbia University, told the host, "It feels now like there has been a naiveness on the part of universities. There has been no planning for this kind of thing." What have they been doing this whole time? President of Columbia University hit it on the nail. Bang, bang, bang. There has not been no planning. Did you ever think there was not going to be? Did they really think there was never going to be a administration in the United States of America that was not going to come for you? It was going to happen eventually. It was going to happen eventually. It wasn't going to be. I didn't think it was going to come this fast, guys. I'll be honest with you. I was talking about it at the start of graduate school, right? When we had the last administration, the Biden administration, right? Um, Schools are steady reckless spending money. Higher Education Act hasn't been updated. Students wasn't. I feel like students wasn't graduating really. Fix my lip. I feel like students wasn't graduating really. Um, what else? Um, One of my peers, man. I, I gotta talk about that. So he's right. Like they really thought nothing was gonna happen, and that leaves schools right where the president wants them, the president of the United States. And they said even as Ivy League schools, research institutions, and college trade associations try to resist Trump's attacks in court, and so on and so on, right? And a little story, man, would also played a role and a contribution to this. So I got this tattoo. Can y'all see it? I don't know if y'all can see it. I got this tattoo, right? Boom. Got this tattoo. Um, so I won't mention the college. I always said when I started live streaming, I would give him the recognition he deserves because now granted he probably wouldn't care if he was still here. So to beat around the bush early so you don't so it doesn't lead directly to that. He passed away. So he was a childhood friend of mine. And so I felt bad about this. I tell this story all the time to my peers because we all miss him. It was He was the last person we expected to like leave. He was the last person we expected, and it was not because of gang violence. It was not because of guns. It was not because of none of that craziness out here today. It was a genuine like him really, and so his name was Fred because many people won't know him, but the ones who met him, you know. And so me and Fred grew up together. We played baseball. We played baseball the same how people started Little League football. We started in Little League baseball. We played Little League baseball. He got siblings. We all played. And so we played. We got older. We got to middle school. And then we kept playing. He kept playing. I think he played in another league. My last year was playing seventh grade. And then I didn't play in eighth grade because I was too old. I think I did play in eighth grade, y'all. I can't. I don't really want to say I did. I think I did, but no, I didn't. And so when we got to high school, we was able to play for the team again. But anybody who plays baseball, if you miss like a year or yeah, a year, it's over with because you got to do it. It's repetition. You got to stay with it because you know how fast they throw and everything. It's hard to get that back. So um, Fred, upon he kept playing through high school, baseball team wasn't that good. Oh, terrible coaching, terrible coaching. And so Fred said he was going to school. We used to talk in homeroom senior year. We used to have a conversation. He was the fourth, and I was the third. And we used to talk about like, you gonna have a son, da da da. You know, you gonna have a son, you gonna name a son. And then I remember one of our classmates. They was like, boy, we got some classmates with some old names. The third, the fourth, Henry. And they used to talk about us. It was funny though. And then graduated. He went out to this college. It's very known, but not gonna get into satisfaction or even the publicity when when this blows up in the future. And I'll share this story again because it contributed to the reason why I need to do this. And he went to the school. They told him, the college told him, they told Fred that he would have a part-time scholarship, not part-time. They said he would have a partial scholarship to play baseball there. He was excited. He signed and everything. Um, and I'll never forget. It was like right when we graduated, he was back. And students in general, when they go off to university, athletes or students or athlete students, play. I'm back. I'm back. The time is not moving. Okay, I see the time moving now. And so, um, he had a partial scholarship to play. He had a partial scholarship to play baseball at a school. And where I was at is when like it was like as soon as we graduated, he was back. And like I said, students when they come back here, it's crazy. They come right back. Like students slash student athletes come back like the next year. I said they'll be up there 1 year and they'll come right back. It's crazy. They come right back. The retainability in at universities at least, um, it's terrible, man. They come right back. So I saw Fred at Walmart. Walmart got some advertisement. I saw Fred at Walmart, and I was on that type of time. I feel so bad about this because I was trying to avoid people I went to school with to try to find who I was. It was selfish. I regret it because now I never got that last conversation with him, and we exchanged phone numbers, of course, and I could talk about it because I go visit him. You know, I go visit his grave, balloons, flowers, baseball. You know, and he told me I was like, I thought you was playing baseball, Fred. I thought you was playing baseball at so and so. And he was like, man, nah. He like turned his head like, man, nah, like a movie, man, like in the moment. He was like, nah, it didn't work out like that. It wasn't what it was. And then, you know, eventually, you know, we exchanged phone numbers, but I never contacted him. And then when I had heard he went to the Air Force, he went to the Air Force after duty. And when he went to the Air Force after duty, I was like, oh, yeah, 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 that's good. Fred went, you know, because it made up for, you know, he probably had tapped on some student loans because he had a partial scholarship. He didn't have a full scholarship. And so when I was jogging on a trail in my city I'm from, I was jogging a trail, and our old Little League baseball coach had told me, Like he told me he he passed deceased, and so I was like, I said what? I was like, nah, he just went to da da da, like he went to the Air Force, and then he was in a whole nother country, and I looked it up. What happened? They said it was a car crash. It's a public record. It was a car crash. It was during the pandemic, 2020, so you couldn't go to the funeral services. And I always think that I know everything happens for a reason sometimes, not to talk about death or nothing, but I hated that, I feel like if he'd have went to a different school and stayed in college, that it would have been different, you know? And I feel like that happened because now, yeah, if it's your time, it's your time. But I feel like that happened because he wanted to go play baseball. He was supposed to go play baseball and be in school, especially being where we're from. And I don't even think he had the best upbringing, to be honest. Like, he had a good upbringing, but not the best. Trying to make something out of nothing. Like, we from a semi-small town. And so I feel like it wasn't fair because they led him to go into the military. And yeah, he was driving that car, but he was only there because shoot, he probably racked up them student loans off that partial scholarship. And he didn't have the education to know that a partial scholarship is not going to cover your whole tuition there at the school, especially if it's expensive. A partial is going to be like a discount. Your first semester staying on campus and all that might be 15 grand. They probably gonna cover 5 grand maybe. You got to come up with the rest of the 10 grand. So you leave college, and that happened to him, man. And I hate that happened because I feel like you deserve the education. You deserve to know, like, why should I go to this school? Why should I? Why do I need to know? Why is this school better for me on my return on investment? No, you don't. The school, I didn't. The school, like, you don't get into a school. It wasn't because you wasn't good enough to get into the school. The school was good enough for you. Like I said, I went to a 2 year. I tell people quick in a hurry. They be like, "What college you went to?" I started at 2 year, and then I bridged to my 4 year because everybody gonna know my 4 year before they know my 2 year, and then everybody definitely gonna know my graduate school because it's a bigger school, real big. And so that's why I say education is everything, because his decision could have been different. You know, if I was older, let's say I was this age now, and he was coming out of high school, and he saw a video clip like this, and so it could have changed his trajectory. But you can't do that. It doesn't work like that. So we do miss him though, for the better, and we know he is watching. I always gotta tell that story, and maybe again, when we get some more followers and get some more people to watch, I'll clip that up too. I don't care how long it is, I'm gonna clip that up for you, and then make sure you can watch that and play that. So we're gonna jump into Davidson College, man. Davidson College. If you don't know what Davidson College is, that's where the great Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. That's where he went, and also he got his bachelor's degree from there. Fuck that. Y'all probably heard about that. Steph Curry finished his bachelor's, and so we're gonna look at Davidson College a little bit, talk about them because remember the president Douglas A. Hicks, the president of Davidson College, said that schools who provide affordability shouldn't be targeted. Davidson College is a private school, though, guys. I don't even think this school is affordable because it's private. So I wanted to look at it, talk about it a little bit, give us something to talk about, um, and let's talk about it because a lot of people probably like Davidson College, and you probably know it just because of basketball. I know I do. So I was like, let's talk about it. Somebody might want to go to this school. This school is in North Carolina. It's a private school. As I said, I don't talk about private schools because private schools can do their own thing, guys. And so, let's see. Oh my. Ooh. Oh my. Let's look at their tuition and fees. Guys, it said 68,000. Ooh. I'm not seeing. They're trying to give me that net price calculator. I don't want that. I want to calculate my own tuition. Huh. Okay, I guess we're gonna use that. And so it says a first year student can be looking at first year domestic. I don't know why they said that. First year local, pretty much. A first year student can be expecting $69,000 of tuition at Davidson College the first year. And after the housing, the food, um, required fees, yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, after transportation, miscellaneous personal expenses, you're looking at 89,000. Whew, please tell me that's not. I know that's not for 1 year. That's got to be for 4 years of schooling. Yeah, 89,000 to 89,000, 90,000. You're looking at $90,000 cost of attendance if you attend this institution based on their 25 to 26 school year. So that's expensive. You go here. Now you got a scholarship, play ball, you good. A regular student, it's expensive. But as I say, private schools are expensive. This is Davidson College, home of the Stephen Curry where he went. And I wanted to talk about it because they were in this article about avoiding the tax and the endowment tax hike. And I was wondering why they were in there about the endowment tax hike because their school is very expensive. If you go look at like the iPads, I probably said it wrong, but iPads, it's IPEDS, critical, credible source of information about acceptance rates and all the good stuff pertaining to higher education, SAT scores, and all that. I don't really focus on the SAT scores heavy because if you start at 2 year, you don't need to really take a SAT. Frankly, you don't really need to. Um, you can take it, but and so you don't have to take the like a compass. They call it like a compass. Different places call it different things, like a compass test or a aptitude test. But Davidson College is definitely a private school. It's actually a liberal arts college. So meaning that their programs and stuff that they have is like psychology, theories. Let's go look at it. And so just break it down to school. It's like, yeah, Africana studies, Arab studies, art, biology, really Arabic. I don't know why they say Arabic because I would say Arabic studies, um, East Asian studies, economics, data science. Now we get into this is all liberal arts, gender and sexuality studies. What's another one? Greek, like global literacy theory, German studies. These are very good degrees. Why? Because these degrees are going to expand your mind, and they also come with minors. These degrees like philosophy, like people think, why would I get a philosophy degree? How much does a philosophy person make? Like honestly, if I was anybody going to school for philosophy, anything that's like liberal like this, right? We go to school to really break down things. Like I got a liberal arts degree, and look at me, I'm on YouTube talking about higher education because higher education is not solely about yes or no, go to this school, go to that school. You can have the right schools in place. I can tell you all day what school to go to. Let me tell you the whole magnitude, the whole, as we like to say, the onion layer model of higher education. I can tell you what school to go to. I can say go to start at a 2 year, bridge to a 4 year. But if you don't know like soft skills along the way on why understand why you need to go to a 2 year and the meaningful purpose of bridging to the 2 year, you're probably not going to do it. You might say, "Oh, here I want to do 1 year at the 2 year, and then I'm gonna go do 3 years at the 4 year." No, 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 that's not the plan. You're not gonna be eligible for the articulation agreement. You're not gonna be able to exercise and take all the classes that's offered at this 2 year that will be offered at a 4 year. Your 1,000, 2,000 levels are offered at this 2 year. If your 2 years are credible, you gotta make sure it's credible. And so, same thing with these other majors, right? If you get a philosophy, if you get what else they have on here, I'm gonna say one more. You can do pre-law. So, and then one more that I feel like is sociology. Like you actually can get that degree. And so they're not very much, they're not straight engineering or tech, computer science. They're very studies, researching, travel abroad, articulation, articulating yourself, like really articulation, like articulating with others, communication. So, which is very going to be much needed per Barack Obama, which is going to be very much needed in the future. So, Davidson College, would I say, would I go there? If I had the money, yeah, I probably would go there because I feel like you can get a great education going there. I hope. I hope you get a great education. And I want to see where my alumni is at. I think that's one thing I would ask if I was picking my university again. I would want to know what alumni are in positions in certain places. And then I would ask the school, do they host anything where I can meet these alumni? Knowing my interest in what I learned now, I wasn't confident at first to feel like I was gonna know the stock market well. I would have did a minor in finance, and then I would have asked like, what schools have people who work on Wall Street, people who savvy in the stock market, finance world. I would want to meet people like that and higher education, which I'm trying to do now in graduate school. I'm trying to meet experts in higher education so I can better my craft. It seems like there's a lot of gatekeeping, so I have to call them out on this live stream and talk about them and that they were wrong about some things. Like, how did you not expect an administration to come after you? You think somebody was just gonna let you keep doing reckless spending in higher education and not come for you? So then I called them out like that, and they realized like, oh, like, yeah, come talk to me, come talk to me. Use your burner account on YouTube and come talk to me so I can learn something from you and you can give this free information out to these kids so they can make the better decision for themselves. And so that's what we want to talk about with Davidson College. It really wasn't going to be long on that one. And then the fun one that I did want to talk about was the American Council on Education. I told you guys I was going to look into that. I said I was going to look into American Council on Education. So they have like who we are, what we do, where do we come from, where are we going, the American Council leadership, so the experts, you can get their names. I'm gonna have to look up their LinkedIn's. Hopefully they're on LinkedIn. I can follow them on LinkedIn, see if they post anything. So what I got from American Council on Education is that they are very resourceful. If you need to complain about if you need to complain about things to lawmakers, they have buttons or links to take you there so you can actually speak on that. They have that on here. They have actually I seen something else on here where they offer it's like somebody business, but it's sponsored by American Council on Education where you can take classes that will be accredited It'll be accredited where you can use them for your college. So you can be exempted out of that class. Now, I found that interesting. Of course, I would love to talk to someone about that and see the resource on that because if you take it, like my thinking was already like if I take a class off their website, can I use that? Like, let's say a class is not being offered at my school. Can I come here and take that and apply it back? I'm pretty sure that's what they're incorporating, but nothing's official on that, right? But if you also want to take a class and your class is not offered during that semester, you can be a transient student. What's a transient student? Transient student is when we made a video on it, but transient student is you can be at one school but be enrolled in another school. Cool, right? You can be enrolled in two schools at a time, probably three schools at a time. You can, if you need to take a class, of course you want to make sure that credit can transfer back over, but your school should help you with that. You can enroll in that class in that semester, so you can have two classes at your home school and then two classes at another school. Crazy, right? Dope, right? And they bill you separately, and you just gotta have the money, of course. And the American Council on Education, they say it's a member organization that leads higher education with a united vision for the future. And they said, what they said, they had something with instructors. They said, as the major coordinating body for the nation's colleges and universities, our strength lies in our diverse membership of nearly 1,600 colleges and universities, related associations, and other organizations in the United States and abroad. And then they said what we do. They said they convene and lead advocacy efforts that shape effective public policy, cultivate a more diverse institutional leadership pipeline, forms partnerships to address the complex challenges of today's learners. So that's a lot of like, you know me, I'm always about how does this apply back to a student in college. That's my big ordeal. And so they say they are the most credible. When I read a lot of articles or people writing things on different like platforms and higher education media outlets, they often say, "Oh, the American Council on Education did this or did that," or their data. They always refer back to ACE, and so ACE is a very informational place if you want to look for, even if you want to look at jobs, internships. They have that on here, if I'm not mistaken, when I was looking. And so they have also, that was in my, where is it? They have information. So the way I get my resources, so I be going to different places to get resources when it comes out. There's really no clear leader in higher education who's like, their information is banging. Their information is like top tier. So the American Council of Education also releases their own information, talking about like the Department of Education and the Higher Education Act. They talk about the issues. They have their work on here, where they have articles, news outlets. They even have a podcast. But most of all, it's credible. So if you was to get any information, any data as a college student, if you need it, right? I know college students were busy when we were in our semester, right? But if you need any resources that's like your school is not offering, this is a place to come. You can contact them. They're kind of like an extension from my view. They're like not the Department of Ed. They're like their own entity and an advocate group for you. So if you need advocacy, they seem like this the place you will come to. That's what I'm getting from them. And I feel like it was important to figure that out as I was looking through it. I was like, so what did they do? And they literally have a tab called policy and advocacy. So like how we talked about the Big Beautiful Bill Act, they talking about that, how it's gonna affect you as a student, what you need to be worried of or be aware of when it happens, why you need to go complain, because if you don't, if you as the people don't complain, then they think everything is okay, and then they just let it happen. And so that was the American Council on Education. And then we did our breakdown of the school. We did. But let's look up how much, since he was talking, where is he? I know I didn't close him out, did I? Let me see, where is he? I think I took away his tab, y'all. Where is he? Douglas A. Hits. Let's look up how much Douglas A. Hits makes. And that's going to be our closeout. Because we already broke down the school in this one. We broke down the school. We did a 2-for-1 on that one. Let me see. Okay. There we go. All you gotta do is type in their salary. And they're gonna tell you. Beautiful, right? If they making 89 a year though, or 80 a year, if a student is gonna have to pay like 80, 90 grand for 4 years there, total, I know he gotta be making like millions. Oh, he ain't making that much. It says the president, Douglas Hicks, served as the 19th president of Davidson College since 2022. His compensation was, they said, according to Davidson's most recent RS Form 990 for the 2023-2024 physical, I always say physical, like physical activity, but fiscal year, his compensation was 236,000. And then it said his additional compensation was 47,000. That's crazy. I would have thought he made more.